Hi, and welcome back to Thone's Hebrew Nibbles, number 85. The just live by faith. Exhortation against deliberate sin, part 1 of 3. And then this is talking about, to begin with, deliberate sin. So I'm going to read this one. It comes from Hebrews chapter 10, verses 26 through 31. For if we sin willfully, after that we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins, but a certain fearful looking for of judgment and fierce indignation, which shall devour the adversaries. He that despised Moses' law died without mercy under 2 or 3 witnesses. That was the law. Of how much sorer punishment suppose ye that he be thought worthy who hath trodden under the foot the Son of God, and hath counted the blood of the covenant wherewith he was sanctified an unholy thing, and hath done despite unto the Spirit of grace. For we know him that hath said, Vengeance belong unto me, I will recompense, saith the Lord. And again, the Lord shall judge his people. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. Wow. So we're going to be talking about the penalty for intentional habitual sin. And this communications is an exhortation against it. Application to me. This exhortation is not against occasional accidental or unthinking sin. If you left a restaurant and forgot to leave a tip for the waitress or the waiter, that's an unthinking thing. And you know, we might argue it's a sin or it's not a sin, but certainly it's not an intentional sin. Accidental sin, we accidentally run a stop sign because we didn't see it. There are accidental and unthinking sins. And it's about an attitude of sin which makes repeated sins of disobedience to the attitude of love and mercy of God, a regular and deliberate act. Let me simplify that statement. If our mind doesn't care whether we sin or not, that's our attitude, and we get into a habit of doing a particular thing which we know is wrong, but we really don't care because it's a regular part of our lives, that is a habitual sin. It's intentional. We know it's wrong, but we do it anyway because everybody else does it. You hear that? You know, well, why do you speed? You know, why do you drive 20 miles an hour over the speed limit? Because everybody else does. No. It's a deliberate act against a law. Now, you may say, but it's not a law of God. God didn't set the speed limits. No, but he gave the people who are in legal authority in a particular locale the power to set such things. And therefore, a sin against them and what they say is a sin against the authority of God who put them there. Understand? This was not the kind of sin provided for in the Old Testament forgiveness, by the way. It provided for, it was provided for by the Levitical sacrifice system. It is rather insulting to God and the many tender mercies he shows on for our misbehavior. Furthermore, it is trampling to the salvation brought by Jesus by his shedding of his blood at Calvary. Such behavior is impossible for a saved person. And it's unfortunately very possible for an unsaved person. And that's part of what's wrong with the world, I guess. God's counsel is habitual, intentional sins are not forgiven without true, heartfelt repentance. If you commit a intentional sin, let's say you, steal something. Could be a Snickers bar. Could be a Rolls-Royce car. Penalty is the same. That is an intentional sin, and it will not be forgiven by God without true, heartfelt repentance. I've said. My personal response: Lord, thank you for dividing sins in this way so that our occasional slip-ups can be overlooked by you. That is, these slip-ups were, you touched a dead body in olden times, and so therefore you were going to be unclean for 7 days. That's a slip-up, and that's why there was a seemingly fairly severe penalty for that, in that you had to take a valuable animal from your flock or your herd and bring them in for sacrifice to be forgiven these things. And there was, all these different categories that the Levitical priesthood dealt with for, totally accidental acts, unthinking acts, and so on. There were all these things which we would sort of categorize by slip-ups today. That is, we didn't intend for it to start this way, and we didn't intend for it to end this way. And certainly, once we recognize what it's about, then we're very sorry, and we hope to never do it again. And that's, because if we start doing it again regularly, then we're into the intentional habitual sin category, for which there are no sacrifices except for the sacrifice of Christ on the cross. That's the only sacrifice which is good for those kinds of sins. So we'll talk to you next time.